People who have surprisingly woken up admitted into a hospital. What happened? Walking down the road one night, proper side of road in reflective gear, headed to the gas station for some MT, dew and smokes. Suddenly it's 2 days later and I'm strapped to a hospital bed. Apparently I was hit by a Mitsubishi 3000 GT. Kid driving was coming from a rave, high as a kite, and thought I was an angel in my reflective gear. He tried to catch me with his bumper. Fun times. Does it count if I woke up in hospital surprised with the results? I went in for a stomach operation, woke up and said oh, it doesn't hurt that bad. My surgeon, mother, anesthesiologist and 2 nurses all looked super awkward and said well, we didn't do the surgery. You had an allergic reaction to one of the drugs given to you in the anesthetic process and flatlined. We spent 40 minutes stabilizing you. I was absolutely in awe. I felt fine until I started to get clammy. Then my BP went to 40/20 again and I passed out. Spent 4 days in ICU and a week in total in hospital. Was knocked out by flying squirrel while bike riding near my house. Source of username detected. My brother and I were outside playing with squirt guns. This was 2001 so I would have been 11. Next thing I know it's Easter Sunday. I was in a hospital bed with a massive headache and blurred vision and the last thing I remembered was 4 days ago. Apparently I fell backwards and smacked my dome on the curb hard enough to fracture my skull and bruise my brain. Got 2 weeks off of school which was cool back then and I've had to wear glasses ever since. Apparently, according to my mom, the first sign of consciousness in the hospital was me getting out of bed, taking a pee on the floor, and then going back to sleep for 2 more days. The whole thing was a weird experience. Dashing through the snow, on a pair of broken skis, on the fields we go, crashing into trees. The snow is turning red. I think I might be dead. I woke up in the hospital with stitches in my head. Cut a guy off while bartending in college. He wasn't too happy, grabbed a bottle, and chucked it at the back of my head as I turned around. Woke up in a hospital bed with my best regular and his wife ensuring me I'd be okay and the guy wouldn't be a problem. Super reassuring other than the fact this was a pretty unsavory biker bar and the regulars, though amazingly kind and loyal to me, weren't the most savory human beings. 38 stitches, a partially shaved head, and 3 days later I was at lunch with the same regulars. I didn't die in a motorcycle accident. It was a pleasant surprise. I was watching Voyager on TV. Next thing I was in a hospital bed. Turns out I'd gotten up too fast. Lack of blood flow to the head and passed out, hitting my head on the floor hard. I'm 6'6" and fractured my skull. Confusing. I was watching Voyager on TV. Next thing I was in a hospital bed. No explanation needed. Happened when I was in kindergarten. Apparently I fell down the stairs after stepped on my own trousers. If this were in cartoons you'd still be okay. I was 12 in 1982. Woke up in a hospital bed feeling fine. No idea what happened. Nobody else in the room. Last person I remember hanging out with was my friend, Scott. So I call his house. His mom answered. Advised me to call my parents. No answer at the home phone. So I'm sitting in this bed, trying to figure out why I'm even there. I finally discover that the rolling table over the bed opens up, and there's a mirror under the lid. Across my forehead and down the whole right side of my face are fresh abrasions. Oh, that's why. Finally get hold of Scott and learn the story, which I still don't remember. Was riding my bike down a sidewalk near the grade school. Sidewalk takes a 45-degree left turn, and I cut the corner. Grass is deep and a little wet, and my front wheel catches on the edge of the sidewalk, flipping me over. I landed on my face, dragged against the other edge of the sidewalk, knocked out cold. Another neighborhood kid was in the area, hustled back to alert my parents. My dad took me to the hospital in his car, and I woke up the next day. Yes, my parents just left me in the hospital by myself. Your parents went home to bang. Woke up in the hospital summer of 2002 cuffed to a hospital bed. Tubes all over me and stitches all over my chest. The night before I was hit by a drunk driver. Had a 6-inch gash down the center of my chest exposing a few ribs. After I was discharged I spoke with the gas station attendant who told me that he denied the driver a beer sale because he was already wasted. That butthole was never found. That was pretty bad, but apparently I woke up in a daze a few hours earlier. Doctor had me sedated and arms secured to the bed because I was trying to pull my catheter out. I am just gonna hang out at our pillows for a bit. Diabetic. Went to sleep normally. Woke up 2 days later in the hospital. I heart too low while sleeping that I passed out. Fortunately the time I passed was close to the time I am supposed to wake up. My brother found me half dead and took me to the hospital. I worry this will happen to me. When I get too low it always wakes me up. But nurses have told me that warning will eventually wear off and I won't notice being low. Drank too much and fell off a horse. A metal statue of a horse. In Vegas. Where am I? Hospital. You were airlifted here. Family's in the next room. You had a car crash. Give it to me straight. Doc, how disfigured am I? Hey, you're not. You're messed up, but still have all your parts. Family comes in. Doc leaves. Doctor won't tell me. How fricked up am I? Paralyzed? Lose a leg? Neither. Don't bulls me. I can't feel my legs. You have an epidural, idiot. And you've also been out of your skull on morphine for the past X days. How could you tell? I just woke up. You've always been conscious. High as a kite, but conscious. Oh, okay, then. Nap time. I sleep, then wake up upon next doctor check-in. Where am I? Repeat this for 9 days or so. Then I finally start retaining memories again. I wonder if he ever had a bit of fun during the time you couldn't remember anything. I'm sorry to tell you this, but you're now just a head in a jar. 18-year-old me got super wasted on Smirnoff watermelon vodka at some little club in Clearwater, FL. Apparently I fell off of a tall brass stool and busted my head. When I woke up, I wasn't even sure what state I was in. Accidentally called my friend's mom in North Dakota trying to get a ride to somewhere other than the hospital. A decade later and I still can't drink anything with that watermelon flavor. I'm pretty sure watermelon vodka, Clearwater, FL could have summed that up. I was at a party with a friend in some college town. The street we were on had these 3-story apartments built side by side. The whole street was partying, even on the roofs. We got separated and it was time to go. We don't live in that town. Anyways, I see an ambulance going down the street and knew it was for my dumbass roommate. So I follow the ambulance and sure enough, he was laying on the ground, barely conscious. He tried to jump from one building to the next and didn't even come close. Luckily for him, his head broke the fall. A few weeks later he finally asked, "Oh yeah, hey man, that night we went to Lawrence and I woke up in the hospital. What happened?" His head broke the fall. I'm amazed he didn't freaking die. Falling on your head often doesn't end well. Suicide attempt. I was really not expecting to survive. I had done my homework and my mother had enough of the right combination of painkillers to stop the heart of a small elephant. And then I woke up. Everything was hazy, and I had a catheter, but I don't really remember anything until I got to the mental hospital. That was 5 years ago. I'm better now. At least you did your homework. I hopped into the back of a mate's pickup after a rugby game, went to sleep and woke up in IQ traction with no feeling from my waist down. Turns out we had a head-on collision with a drunk driver and I went through the back of the cab picking up a host of broken body parts including 4 compressed vertebrae. A year and a number of surgeries later I walked out of hospital an inch shorter and with enough metal in me to set off metal detectors at airports. I was the lucky one. The other 3 guys in the truck never woke up afterwards. 20 years and it still gets me. I didn't find out about the others for a while. Aside from being zonked on pain meds, I don't think I was capable of understanding what had happened. Visitation was restricted in the IQ to my folks, but the day after I was moved out, most of the 2 senior teams and some of the staff pitched up to tell me the nasty truth. The tiny ward was crammed with big, burly, ugly bastards crying their hearts out and I loved every one of them for it. Drunk drivers are probably my #1 source of rage in the world. I don't care who you think you are. If you drink and drive you can go frick yourself. I was running a half marathon with a friend and we had just passed the 10-mile mark and I felt like I was getting into a groove after I struggled a bit the previous few miles. Woke up the next day in the ICU with my family all around me. Heat stroke and rhabdomyolysis. I was admitted with a temp of 108.6 and they were telling my family to prepare for the worst. Had to stay in the hospital for a few days and then take it easy for a few months but otherwise came out unscathed. Don't recommend it. Woke up in the hospital with my roommate and her mom asleep in the chairs in the hospital room. I started freaking out because I was 7 months pregnant and my pregnant belly was obviously not pregnant. My screaming woke them up. My fiancé and I had been hit by a drunk driver, killing my fiancé and I lost the baby. I had been in a coma for 3 days. I have some really gnarly scars that my kids like to make up crazy stories about. My favorite being the time I fought off 3 knife-wielding, psychotic carnies and murdered them with my bare hands. You have been visited by Reverse Psychology Doggo. Please do not comment and do not subscribe to Updoot Reddit. Thank you for your attention.